Good morning, I'm Tom Elliott. This is my market report for Thursday, October 14th. Well, just some amazing things happening on both the share market and currency and in fact commodities markets at the moment. Now last night the Dow Jones was strong, up about 0.7%, and the Australian market has responded very well this morning. It's up around 1.3% and still rising in late morning's trade. What's really happening is that the US dollar is getting incredibly weak on overseas exchanges, and it's weak in terms of other currencies. The A dollar is about 99.7 cents. Everybody says it's headed for parity and may well do so. Gold is hitting record highs over $1,370 an ounce. All sorts of other commodities rising, including oil, agricultural commodities. And what people are waiting for is the US monetary authorities to engage in what they call QE2, which is quantitative easing the second time. And this, of course, will be a massive money printing exercise that the US Fed, which is the equivalent of our Reserve Bank, is going to do to try and lift the American economy out of recession. Now, one of the questions I get asked the most is, well, how does this work? I mean, how do you print money in the modern economy, and how does that make people sort of expand their economic output? It works like this. The US government issues bonds and bills, that is, it borrows money. At the moment, it may have a shortage of people who want to lend it money. As a result, it goes straight to the US Fed, and the US Fed effectively buys those bonds and bills from the US government and gives the government in return a whole pile of money. Now, they don't actually print it anymore, it's an electronic trade. The US government, with all its new money, electronic money, then on-lends it to US banks, and hopefully they on-lend it to customers. It's a circuitous route, it may not work, and I must say a lot of the recent rise in share prices has been this faith that A, QE2 will happen, and B, that it will work. Now, they've tried printing money in Japan over the past 20 years, and it hasn't lifted economic output, so the historical signs are not necessarily great for what the Americans are doing. Anyway, we will see. In coming news, the head of Woodside Petroleum, Don Volti, he's been the CEO for the last 7 years. He decided to resign and go back to his native United States next year. The search is on mainly internally for a new candidate. It won't affect what Woodside does. It's a huge oil and gas company, and Don Volti's done a very good job at expanding it in the northwest shelf of WA. Also, JB Hi-Fi. Now, it's one of the great success stories in Australian retailing. Yesterday it said that sales targets would probably miss their budgets, but it's important to note that the company's sales this year are already 12% above last year, but they had targets that were even greater than that. So the shares haven't really gone down very much because JB Hi-Fi still does very, very well, and of course it is a beneficiary, as are many other retailers, of the rise in the Aussie dollar. It does make buying goods from overseas cheaper, as anybody who shopped online recently would know. BHP and Rio look almost certain to abandon their joint venture in Western Australia. They're going to combine their iron ore businesses and therefore share infrastructure like railway lines, ports and so forth. Now, you might think this would be a negative thing, but to be honest, for Rio shareholders in particular, it's positive. Rio did this deal with BHP midway through 2009 when Rio was in pretty bad shape. Its fortunes have improved since then, and it no longer needs BHP as a joint venture partner. Nevertheless, both companies' shares will be priced as they have been on the strength of iron ore prices, coal prices and metal prices, which, thanks to what I said before about the US dollar going down, the value of all these things is going up. And finally, sticking with coal, it's been yet another takeover in this sector, notwithstanding all the talk about green energy and carbon taxes and so forth. Northern Energy, which is a small coal company, has had a bid from New Hope Corporation. It's $1.50 a share, and the board of Northern Energy has decided to reject the bid. The stock is trading above the bid at $1.57, so plenty of punters out there think that another bid could be on the way. We'll wait and see.